What's up guys, and welcome back to Tech Plant. Today is the big update on the root hormone versus no root hormone and kind of seeing what kind of long-term benefits do we get from that. So let's check it out. Alright, before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this video and do the long-term comparison, let me just give you a little bit of history. So we did start an experiment with rooting hormone versus just plain water to see what would happen and if it really mattered. After looking at results over the weeks and weeks that I filmed this video, I did notice that the rooting hormone did indeed produce a heck of a lot more roots. And then the one without rooting hormone kind of went a more normal route, and it would grow like new growth and some roots as well. Again, compared to the rooting hormone nodes, those ones really didn't push out any new growth and just roots. So I found that the rooting hormone really focused all the efforts of the plant or node onto the rooting aspects and completely ignored what it needed to do to actually grow new growths. So at the end of the experiment, I looked at the roots and kind of the different growths that we're seeing, and this is what it looked like. You can see a clear difference in the roots. The rooting hormone has a lot more roots, many more roots, but it also didn't have as many growths. Compared to the one on the left then, it has kind of a medium bit of either. So it's got decent growth and decent roots, but nothing crazy on either end of the spectrum. So I potted these things up and we were going to leave them for a long time and just see if there was any long-term effects on the actual growth of the plants. So that brings us up to speed where we are now. Looking at the two pots side by side, you might not actually be able to tell which one is which, but if you look closely, there is an RH on the one pot, which stands for rooting hormone, so I could keep them straight. I did keep these plants in the same location, and I tried to keep their watering even. From the side, it was almost like you could see a slight difference, but if you look from the top down, they're actually almost identical, which is pretty funny. I mean, a lot of plants can grow in many different ways, but these both chose to grow pretty similarly. Just to reiterate this again and really show you that they are very similar, I'm going to mix these things up and give you a second to choose which one is which, and then I'll give you the answers on screen. If you guessed that the rooting hormone plant was on the left, you're right and correct. So maybe you can see a difference. Let's try one more time. This one actually got a little more tricky because I did pull out the dead leaves. If you guessed that rooting hormone was on the left side again, you're right and you got a darn good eye. For me personally, I can't tell the difference unless I actually look at the pot. Now, I've never really done this on video or in any of my videos, but we're going to dig these up and look at the roots. Luckily, I have enough pothos, so even if I kind of harm their growth or anything, it's not too big of a deal for me and they'll recover. So let's dig them up. The rooting hormone is on the right side this time, and taking a look at the roots, I was actually a little surprised. For whatever reason, it appears the non-rooting hormone plants actually have bigger, thicker, more mature seeming roots. When I look at the root ball on the right, the one that was in the rooting hormone, they're much skinnier and they almost look more like pale colored. And I'm not really sure why that is. I actually assumed that the rooting hormone one would just have a ton more because it already started with a ton more. But it seemed like once it got potted up, it stopped producing roots because maybe it thought it already produced enough and just focused on the growth. So it looks like at the end of the day, the non-rooting hormone one has done the best overall. The non-rooting hormone has the same amount of growth as the rooting hormone one, and it has a much thicker root ball. So from what I can tell, it seems to be doing much better. So how do we conclude this experiment? Well, I can't really tell if either root ball is better than the other because I don't know how well those roots are functioning. But from what I can tell on the surface, they look exactly the same. So I don't think you really need to use any rooting hormone unless you have a plant that doesn't want to root and it's very hard and it's a big struggle to get some roots. That might help you out a little bit in the future, but as far as the long run, it doesn't matter at all. Well guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you liked the outcome. I guess it really doesn't matter. It's just kind of what you get initially when you first start to grow. Whether you want a lot more roots or you want to focus on a little bit of a hybrid approach with roots and growth. That really is all it boils down to. In the end, they look exactly the same. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.